Hi, it's me again. I'm back with another video. In today's video, I want to talk about my journaling process and my self-care habits and how that looks. I talked about this a little bit in the last video. So basically what I want to cover today is firstly, self-care habits. So I talked about this a little bit before when I talked about self-care, self-love, and affirmations and things that you can do. So the main thing that has been beneficial to me is originally I was in a course. I think I talked about this and it didn't work for me. It just wasn't a fit. But I did take away some of the information from that and apply that to my journaling going forward. So for self-care, my main habits that I do is reading. This is my number one. I do this every day because it's just my biggest thing since I was a child that helps me like escape, heal, and like center myself. It's such a positive thing for me. Like if I'm having a lot of stress or a difficult time, I know that I can just read and it will pretty much fix all of my problems. And the other thing that has been very focused in my life, maybe for the past 5 or 6 years now, has been hair care. I started my natural journey the first time like in the junior year, wrapping up senior year, starting yet, and I shaved my whole head. And after that, I grew it out for a little bit and until college, and it was about the same length then it is now. And it didn't really, how do I describe it? I was way too much into like the natural hair community at that time and watching those videos about how to take care of my hair. So I was doing way too much. So the time that I would spend on my hair was like upwards of 2-3 hours, sometimes 4. Oh my gosh. But then there was a situation with the family member. I think I talked about this in that video where they were like, oh, you need to do something with your hair. It doesn't look good, like blah, 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 blah. So and also because of stress at that time, it was falling out in certain areas anyway, so I let them press my hair and it got heat damage. So then I just shaved it again and started over. And then throughout college, I grew it out again. And that was when I finished college. So that was the second round. So technically when I transferred after that, I grew it out again. And then is when I changed my mentality about the hair because, growing up I had a lot of issues with self-hate. That's just the family that I was raised in and the situations that were around me. So I really didn't like my hair texture. And I will always shave the back anyway because, I do have 2 hair textures. Like the main part of my hair, like the majority of my hair is 4C. But the issue is the back, and it's always been the back. It's like this much maybe. And it goes this band from ear to ear. And that area, it ranges from like 3C to 4A, and it just doesn't match. So what I would do before, like when I was in college, I would shave it. I would always shave the back, and I did that for years. Even in high school I would do that just because the hair texture is too different and I can't really do anything with it. Plus that hair is much finer, and I think it also has a different porosity. So when I would try and, how to describe it, when I would try and grow it out, this part will always be the main part that would fall out anyway because I just couldn't manage it well. So that's when I just kept cutting it. So I started cutting it because I'm like, if I don't cut it, it's gonna fall out anyway. And then after college, I changed my mentality. I stopped watching so many of the YouTube videos and I did like research on hair care and like what's necessary for my hair type and the porosity. And ever since then, it's just been fine. I've been set on shoulder length and not really much more than that, just because at one point I was like, oh, waist length hair, but then I realized how much time it would take and effort, and I just don't want my hair to be that big a part of my life. So I gave up on that journey. Like recently I just had to cut my hair because normally I cut my hair every 3 months, but it was my fault. So basically I went from braids to twists, from twists to cornrows, and then I finally let my hair rest. So at that point it was a lot of issues. So not issues, but it just, you could tell it hadn't been cut in a while. Like, so it hadn't been cut in like 5 or 6 months. So I cut it and I gave myself a trim, and now we're fine again. But just remembering to stay on schedule for that. The other thing that I do for my self-care is face masks. Face masks are so big for me. I didn't really do them until college. Like my first video, that ex-friend that I did, we were pretty close and she introduced me to like certain skincare stuff. And after I did that, I was like, wow, this is so good. Like, I don't use the stuff that I used back then just because it's too harsh for my skin and it made my skin way too dry. But in my second school, like after I transferred, I started using the Aztec clay because I kept hearing about it on like everybody raving. So I would do like a hair mask maybe once every 6 months with that, because just to, you know, get all the built-in anything that's left over in terms of like shea butter, it'll get that out. And then every other month I'll do an argan oil scalp treatment, like the hot oil treatment, or I will do the argan oil hair masks. I rotate between those. Yeah, because when I first came here, I was only using Amazon to order stuff, which is fine. It just takes longer and you have to spend like $60 in order not to get the shipping costs, which are pretty high. So I'll usually bulk buy on that, and it's usually stuff that I can't get here. But everything else I've been using Shopee, and Shopee is really convenient. You can get stuff in like one day most of the time. So that's what I've been doing for that. So hair care, face mask. You know, it's not, to me, like, how do I describe it? Like, I'll put on a robe, I'll do the hair mask, do the face mask, and I'll just relax. Like, sometimes I'll read, but most of the time I can't, just because I don't want to get, you know, my bed wet or anything like that. So I will stay in the bathroom and I'll listen to music and like try and relax and, you know, be zen and focused, you know, just spend that time there and like centering myself. And I find that very healing and also satisfactory. The other thing that I do is crochet. Crochet is something that how to describe it, like when I do it, it's when I want to just not think about anything. I don't want to have any thoughts, just focus. And that's what I'll do. Like, it's like my main stress thing. Or if I want to give somebody a gift. But either way, the result is the same. It's like very good for me for like getting rid of any unnecessary thoughts. I usually don't have racing thoughts, but if, you know, I have a very anxious day, that's most likely when I'm going to crochet. And the last thing that I do is the journaling. So the journaling I wanted to talk about, this is probably going to take up the bulk of the video. I told you at the beginning of the video that program didn't work for me, but there's certain things that did work. I wish I still had that worksheet, but I remember what it was about. So the main thing, the first point that it asks you is like, did you do any unhealthy habits? And you check those off. I don't really have many, because the ones that I used to have, I've pretty much gotten rid of, just because therapy is so important. And once I, you know, really started taking that seriously and working on my healing, that issue went away from me. But any unhealthy habits that you have, and then how many times a day that you've thought about those things. And moving on from that, it's to set goals. So there's a goal for the year, the month, the week, and the day. So the year goal for this year, I think I already talked about it, was just to be more stable with myself and more focused and flexible in terms of like my health and my mental health. Because it's not that my mental health has been bad, it's just even with medication, like I can tell like when I'm depressed or when I'm manic, when I'm on the medication, like it basically, I can tell because of my sleep schedule. So I know that I'm manic if, you know, I wasn't taking the medicine, because I notice it's harder for me to sleep. And I know that I would be depressed if it wasn't for the medicine, because it's really hard for me to wake up. Like I'll sleep way too much. And also just other issues with like motivation and things, like there's different levels to it. Other than that, just making note in the journal about that. So basically I start each journal by talking about the day, like what day it is that day, and then next it will be what is my goal for the month and have I worked towards it. Like the big ones every month has been like make a YouTube video. The one for the year I already talked about. The ones for each week is like making sure that I'm doing my chores and trying not to lose things and keep things organized and sorted. And then every day my goal has just been like try and study the Mandarin, because that's something that I think I talked about this is my second try doing the video, by the way. The first time it didn't go well, but the main goal is like, have I done the vocab? This is like the biggest thing. And I'm debating right now if I should enroll in a course or get like a tutor or something, because I've just not been able to stay focused on it. This is something that I have an issue with. This is like one of my big issues, like the one that I talked about for the year goal, is at the beginning of something I'll be like very focused in on it because I'm such a scrupulous student. But since there's nothing to keep me in track, there's no grades, there's no motivation, the goal is just like, oh, have conversations or whatever. So it's been really hard for me to stay focused on that, which is why I'm like, oh, I should probably just enroll in a course. But then it's, you know, finding the time. Now since I moved up north, it is easier to find courses, but the problem is they're all so early in the morning. I'm not a morning person, so it's just me being lazy. But I think I'm definitely going to enroll in either the fall course or the winter course. There's a school really close by, so I'm trying not to give myself any more excuses. But after I do that, you know, I think it'll work out. Wish me good luck. Anyway, so going back to the journal, like just making sure that you're going in depth about certain things. Like for me, my issue is memory and retaining things that have happened on a day-to-day basis. Like I really only develop strong memories for very important, like it always has to be core or essential. Anything that's even slightly less than that, it takes me a really long time to remember, and I most likely won't remember. So what I do is I'll talk about like the big thing for the year, how's my progress on that, how's my progress on the thing for the month, how's my progress for the thing on the week, and then every day what's my progress on that. And then I'll wrap it up by talking about my big feelings, my small feelings, any concerns or anxieties that I'm having, and then just addressing any mental health stuff that could be going on. Because for me, like there's a lot to deal with. Like there's the PTSD, there's the bipolar 1, there's the BPD, there's the DOS anxiety. So it's just a lot to remember and make sure I'm managing and maintaining. And you know, also any feedback that I've gotten from someone. So if someone says, oh, you did this and I didn't like it, or I really don't have that issue anymore, but you know, when I was going through that, that's something that I would maintain. Well, I wasn't journaling at that point, so it's not really an issue. But one of the things that I did was this one. Let me think. This one is an old one from Friday, and it's just talking about like something that I did for the day, like the big thing that I did that day, which is me wanting to buy more figurines. Of course, that's what happened. And then it's talking about like what type of holidays or events were coming up, how, and then I went into what I did for my goal that year, what I did for the goal that month, usually like 1 or 2 sentences. How was my goal for the week, the day, and then I wrapped up talking about like goals that I have for myself and affirmations and things that will make me feel better. And I think it's just beneficial to follow that pattern for me. Like for other people it might not be that, but like depending on your goals is how you're going to form your journal. Like some people just want to talk about stuff that happened in their day. My main thing for my journal, like the whole point of it, is my mental health. Like, am I meeting my goals? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I satisfying myself in every way that I want to be satisfied? Am I meeting people in the way that I want to meet people? Am I showing up in the way that people want me to show up? Those type of things. But what I was saying was I could probably just draw an example of what I want to include in the video of what an exemplary journal entry looks like for me and how that can translate for you. But like I said before, everybody's goals and what they want to accomplish with their journaling is going to be different. So what I'm saying is, like, when you're going into your journaling process, make sure you have clear goals. What is the purpose of that journal? Is it just for your personal satisfaction? Is it for mental health? Is it for interpersonal relationships? Is it for internalized issues? What is your purpose? Because if you're not having a purpose for it, it's really hard to stay focused and maintain to do what you need to do. And there's also something that I did. This was for, I think it was college. I went to this fair about like self-care and self-love because I was enrolled in some courses about that, and I wrote myself a letter. So anytime, I've not really looked at it since then, maybe once or twice, but it's for like emergency, like if you're having like a really bad day or something and your health or mental health is not where you want it to be. It's just like a very affirming letter. I don't really have to do affirmations as much as I did when I first started this journey because I'm just really happy with where I am. You know, I love myself a lot, and you know, I know my worth. But make sure you have clear goals. That's like the main thing that I'm gonna say, and it's just beneficial for me in that way. So I don't know, like we can share ideas, talk more about this. Other than that, you know, we can talk down in the comments about what you would like to include or stuff that you think is important. And for now, I'll say peace. Bye.